The Great Dismal Swamp, America's hidden kingdom of freedom, a place the world feared. At first glance, the Great Dismal Swamp seems like the last place anyone would choose to live. In 1728, surveyor William Byrd II famously described it as a dismal place, a name that has endured for nearly 3 centuries. For centuries, travelers described it as dark, dangerous, and nearly impenetrable. Thick forests swallowed the sunlight, mosquitoes swarmed in clouds, venomous snakes slid silently through the undergrowth. Dense walls of greenbrier and cane tangled around anyone foolish enough to venture too far inside. The black water looked mysterious and forbidding, reflecting shadows instead of light. To most people, it was a wasteland. To others, it was freedom. Stretching across southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina, the Great Dismal Swamp once covered nearly 1 million acres. Today, only a portion of that wilderness remains preserved as a national wildlife refuge. Yet hidden beneath its towering cypress trees and dark waters lies one of the most extraordinary stories in American history, a story of resistance, survival, and the unbreakable human desire to live free. For more than 2 centuries, the swamp became a sanctuary for people who had nowhere else to go. And in the heart of that wilderness, they built a world of their own. Before freedom seekers came. The story begins long before slavery. Archaeological evidence suggests that people were connected to this landscape more than 13,000 years ago. Long before the swamp took its modern form, indigenous peoples hunted and traveled across the region. As centuries passed, Native American communities, such as the Nansemond and other Algonquian-speaking peoples, adapted to the changing environment. They learned how to move through the wetlands, where to find food, and how to survive in a landscape that outsiders found intimidating. Then European colonization arrived. As settlements spread across the Atlantic coast during the 17th century, many indigenous communities were pushed from their ancestral lands. Some sought refuge in places colonists could not easily control. The Great Dismal Swamp became one of those places. For Native Americans, the swamp offered protection from displacement. Later, it would offer protection from slavery. George Washington's vision. Few people viewed the swamp more differently than George Washington. In 1763, Washington became involved in the Dismal Swamp Company, a venture designed to drain portions of the swamp and transform it into profitable farmland and timber operations. To Washington and his investors, the swamp represented unrealized economic potential. It was land waiting to be improved. The Maroons saw something else entirely. They saw freedom. Washington believed nature should be conquered and controlled. The Maroons depended on its wildness. One side viewed the swamp as a resource. The other viewed it as a refuge. This clash represented 2 radically different visions of the same landscape. 2 roads into the swamp. Not everyone who entered the swamp intended to stay forever. Historians often distinguish between 2 forms of resistance, known as petit marronage and grand marronage. Petit marronage was temporary escape. Some enslaved people disappeared into the swamp for days or weeks at a time. They hid from brutal punishment, visited family members on nearby plantations, or simply reclaimed a brief measure of freedom before returning. Grand marronage was something much more radical. These were the people who vanished into the wilderness and never came back. Men, women, and children slipped beyond the reach of slaveholders to build entirely new lives in the swamp's interior or to gather strength before navigating further north. They established permanent settlements on hidden islands and created communities that would survive for generations. The Great Dismal Swamp was both a refuge and a destination. For some, it was a temporary shelter. For others, it became home. The Hidden Kingdom. The people who settled permanently in the swamp became known as Maroons. The term referred to enslaved people who escaped captivity and formed independent communities. Historians now believe that the Great Dismal Swamp may have contained the largest Maroon settlement in North America. Life there was never easy. Residents endured mosquitoes, floods, hunger, disease, and isolation. Yet countless freedom seekers, considered those hardships preferable to a life in chains. One modern refuge manager captured the reality in a simple but powerful observation: living in the swamp was better than being enslaved. Hidden on small patches of elevated land known as Mesic Islands, families built cabins and gardens. They hunted deer and wild turkey. They gathered edible plants and learned survival techniques from Native Americans, who had long understood the landscape. Some communities remained hidden for decades. Some children were born there and grew up knowing no other home. For generations, a secret society flourished beneath the trees. Nature became their fortress. The swamp itself became the Maroons' greatest ally. The water was stained dark brown by peat and Atlantic white cedar, often called juniper. To outsiders, the black water appeared dirty and dangerous. Ironically, its acidity helped keep it remarkably pure and resistant to spoilage. This juniper water provided a dependable source of drinking water without requiring deep wells. Meanwhile, the vegetation formed natural defensive walls. Greenbrier vines, cane thickets, and tangled undergrowth created barriers so dense that slave catchers often refused to pursue runaways into the interior. Visibility was poor. Trails disappeared. Floodwaters reshaped the landscape. The swamp protected those who understood it and punished those who did not. What appeared to be a wilderness was actually a fortress. Shared refuge, complex relationships. The relationship between Native Americans and Maroons was often cooperative, but not always simple. Many freedom seekers learned survival skills from indigenous peoples who had already adapted to life in the wetlands. Knowledge of hunting, fishing, edible plants, and navigation proved invaluable, yet colonial expansion complicated these relationships. European authorities sometimes pressured native communities to assist in capturing runaway slaves. Some tribes resisted. Others cooperated under difficult political circumstances. The result was a shifting network of alliances and tensions. Like all human societies, the swamp was not a perfect world. It was a place where people navigated difficult choices in order to survive. Ancient tools for modern freedom. One of the most astonishing discoveries made by archaeologists concerns the tools used by the swamp's hidden residents. The Great Dismal Swamp contains almost no natural stone. For people living independently, this posed a serious challenge. Dr. Dan Sayers and his research team discovered evidence suggesting that Maroons solved the problem in a remarkable way. Buried within the peat were ancient Native American stone tools, some thousands of years old. The Maroons recovered them. They sharpened them. They modified them. They put them back to work. Ancient blades became hunting tools once again. Stone fragments were reshaped into useful implements for daily life. It was more than recycling. It created a literal connection between two people separated by centuries, but united by a common struggle for survival and freedom. The tools of one displaced people became the tools of another. The secret economy of the swamp. The hidden communities were not completely isolated from the outside world. As canal construction and logging operations expanded, thousands of enslaved laborers entered the region. They cut cypress trees, harvested timber, and dug canals through the swamp by hand. From these interactions emerged a fascinating underground economy. Historians believe Maroons secretly harvested timber deep within the swamp and traded it through trusted canal workers. Those workers could pass the lumber off as their own, sell it, and share the proceeds. In return, Maroons received valuable supplies that could not easily be produced in the wilderness: salt, iron tools, cooking pots, cloth, gunpowder, and information. News traveled along these hidden networks. So did resistance. The swamp may have been hidden, but it was never completely disconnected. Its economy quietly defied the plantation system from within. Unearthing a lost world. For generations, many historians doubted the existence of large, permanent Maroon settlements. Then archaeology began revealing the truth. In 2003, researchers launched systematic investigations deep inside the swamp. The work was exhausting and often dangerous. Teams pushed through thorny vegetation, crossed unstable ground, and searched isolated islands hidden beneath the forest canopy. What they found transformed historical understanding. They uncovered cabin footprints, fire pits, water collection systems, defensive structures, and thousands of artifacts. More than 3,000 objects have been documented, including ceramics, weapon fragments, metal tools, and household items. The discoveries confirmed what oral histories had long suggested. The hidden kingdom was real. People had not merely survived in the swamp, they had built communities. The end of hiding. The Civil War changed everything. When slavery was abolished, many residents of the swamp gradually emerged from the shadows. Some joined nearby communities immediately. Others remained for years before leaving. The settlements slowly disappeared beneath vegetation and time. Cabins collapsed. Trails vanished. The forest reclaimed much of what people had built, but the story itself survived. The legacy lives on. Today, many families in Chesapeake, Suffolk, and neighboring communities trace their heritage to people connected to the Great Dismal Swamp. Their ancestors walked out of the wilderness after emancipation and became part of the surrounding society. Family stories, oral traditions, and local memories continue to preserve that connection. The swamp is therefore more than a historical site. It is a living legacy. Its story survives not only in archaeological discoveries and written records, but also in the descendants who continue to carry it forward. More than a swamp. Visitors who come to the Great Dismal Swamp today often admire its wildlife, its forests, and the mysterious waters of Lake Drummond. Yet beneath every trail lies another story. The swamp remembers Native Americans seeking refuge from colonization. It remembers enslaved people who chose danger over bondage. It remembers families who built homes where others saw only wilderness. The Great Dismal Swamp was never merely a swamp. For generations, it was one of the freest places in America, a hidden kingdom where ordinary people accomplished something extraordinary. They transformed a landscape feared by the world into a sanctuary of their own making. And in the shadows of its ancient forests, freedom found a home.
It's time to study new words in context. 1. Dismal. Definition: very sad, dark, unpleasant, or depressing. Example: the weather was dismal, with gray clouds covering the sky all day. 2. Impenetrable. Definition: impossible or very difficult to get through. Example: the forest was so thick that it seemed impenetrable. 3. Swarmed. Definition: moved in a large group or gathered in great numbers. Example: bees swarmed around the flowers in the garden. 4. Venomous. Definition: having poison that can harm or kill through a bite or sting. Example: the hikers were careful because the area had venomous snakes. 5. Intimidating. Definition: making someone feel afraid, nervous, or less confident. Example: the huge building looked intimidating to the new students. 6. Displacement. Definition: the act of forcing people to leave the place where they live. Example: the flood caused the displacement of many families. 7. Petite. Definition: small or temporary. In general English, petite or the anglicized petite only means small, usually referring to a person's stature or clothing size. It only means temporary when paired specifically with marronage in this French historical context. Example: his stay in the village was only a petite break from work. 8. Marronage. Definition: the act of escaping from slavery. Marronage is unique because it implies creating alternative society in the wilderness. Example: marronage was one way enslaved people resisted slavery. 9. Edible. Definition: safe to eat. Example: the campers collected edible berries from the woods. 10. Fortress. Definition: a strong place built for protection against danger or attack. Example: the castle served as a fortress during the war. 11. Peat. Definition: dark, soft soil made from dead plants that have slowly decayed in wet places. Example: the swamp was covered with thick layers of peat. 12. Defied. Definition: refused to obey or accept something. Example, the workers defied the unfair rules. 13. Emancipation. Definition, the act of setting people free from slavery or control. Example, emancipation gave many enslaved people their freedom. 14. Bondage. Definition, the condition of being a slave or being controlled by another person. Example, many people risked their lives to escape bondage.
Comprehension questions. 1. Why did many people consider the Great Dismal Swamp a frightening place? Answer. People considered it frightening because it was filled with thick forests, dark water, insects, snakes, and difficult terrain. 2. Who gave the Great Dismal Swamp its famous name? Answer. Surveyor. William Byrd II gave it the name in 1728 when he described it as a dismal place. 3. Where is the Great Dismal Swamp located? Answer. It is located in southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. 4. Who lived in and around the swamp before European colonists arrived? Answer. Native American communities, including the Nansemond and other Algonquian-speaking peoples, lived in and around the swamp. 5. What is petit marronage? Answer. Petit marronage was the temporary escape of enslaved people who hid for a short time before returning. 6. What is grand marronage? Answer. Grand marronage was the permanent escape of enslaved people who left slavery and built new lives in hidden communities. 7. Who were the Maroons? Answer. The Maroons were formerly enslaved people who escaped and established independent communities in the swamp. 8. Why did many freedom seekers choose to live in the swamp despite its dangers? Answer. They believed that life in the swamp was better than living in slavery. 9. How did the swamp's environment help protect the Maroons? Answer. Thick vegetation, dark waters, flooding, and difficult terrain made it hard for slave catchers to find them. 10. What was unusual about the swamp's juniper water? Answer. Although it looked dark and dirty, it was often pure and resisted spoilage because of its acidity. 11. How did some Native Americans help the Maroons? Answer. They shared survival skills such as hunting, fishing, finding food, and navigating the swamp. 12. How did George Washington view the Great Dismal Swamp? Answer. He saw it as land that could be drained, developed, and used for economic profit. 13. What remarkable discovery did Dr. Dan Sayers and his team make? Answer. They found evidence of Maroon settlements, including cabin sites, fire pits, and thousands of artifacts. 14. How did the Maroons use ancient Native American stone tools? Answer. They found old tools buried in the peat, sharpened them, modified them, and used them again for hunting and daily life. 15. What was the secret economy of the swamp? Answer. Maroons traded timber and other resources through trusted canal workers in exchange for supplies, such as salt, tools, and information. 16. What happened to many Maroon communities after the Civil War? Answer. After slavery ended, many residents left the swamp and settled in nearby communities. 17. How does the legacy of the Great Dismal Swamp continue today? Answer. Descendants of people connected to the swamp still live in nearby communities and preserve its history through family stories and traditions. 18. Why does the author call the Great Dismal Swamp a hidden kingdom of freedom? Answer. The swamp provided a place where people escaping slavery could live independently and create their own communities beyond the control of slaveholders. 19. What is one major theme of the article? Answer. One major theme is that people will endure great hardships in order to gain freedom. 20. What lesson can readers learn from the story of the Great Dismal Swamp? Answer. Readers can learn that courage, determination, and the desire for freedom can help people overcome even the most difficult challenges.